Today, what really happened? A young mother is stabbed by her husband 44 times, dragged to their swimming pool, and drowned. Scott Falater admits killing his wife, but says he is not responsible for his actions. His shocking defense? He was sleepwalking. After a trailer home is set on fire, owners Kathy and Danny Freeman are murdered. Their daughter, Ashley, disappears along with her best friend, Laura. Were they abducted and the victims of foul play, or are they guilty of a heinous crime? Join us as we uncover the surprising twists in these incredible stories and find out what really happened. Thank you for joining us. I'm Rolonda Watts. Today we unravel two compelling cases. Each one has its own shocking revelations. Each one has several intriguing theories. Up first, we're going to examine the case of Scott Falater. He's been convicted of murdering his wife, Yarmila. Now, Scott admits he did kill his wife, but he says he has no memory of committing this violent act. On January 16, 1997, the Phoenix, Arizona Police Department received a 911 call from a man who said he had just witnessed a murder.
And the husband just threw, I believe, the wife to the pool, and looks like he's holding her underwater. She's been screaming for about 20-30 minutes.
The police immediately dispatched units to the home of Scott and Yarmila Falater, where they found Yarmila dead in the backyard. The attacker had stabbed Yarmila 44 times with a hunting knife, then dragged her body to the swimming pool, where she was choked to death underwater. The witness identified the attacker as Yarmila's husband, Scott Falater. Scott was immediately arrested for murder. Months later at his trial, Scott stunned the prosecution and the jury with an almost unbelievable explanation for his actions. He claimed he was sleepwalking when he slaughtered his wife. Joining us now is Lois Wilczek. She is Scott Falater's mother, and she believes her son loved his wife dearly. She says there's no way he intentionally committed this crime. That night of the murder, you got a phone call. You find out that your daughter-in-law has been brutally murdered. You find out that your son is the prime suspect.
This was such a shock. There was no way I could believe that Scott would be capable of doing something like this. And obviously he had done it, because they told me someone saw him do it.
Mm-hmm. I think there's so many people who are just simply astonished that a sleepwalking defense could even be used.
Well, we were too. We were astonished that something like this could happen, because it is so out of character for Scott. Mm-hmm. The only way we could make any sense of this whole thing was by something like this. And believe me, we would have picked anything else, because this is not an easy thing to get across.
I had a chance to speak with your son. I spoke with Scott Falater. He is in prison in Arizona, where he is serving a life sentence. This is what he said to me when I asked him, in his own words, what happened that dreadful night.
It was it was a rough day at work, but came home and we had dinner as a family. During dinner, my wife had asked that I look at our pool filter, which apparently wasn't working correctly. Went outside and tried to work on the pool filter, but by this time it was just too dark. My wife was asleep on the couch when I came in. I just woke her up, told her I would finish working on the pool filter the next day, kissed her goodnight, went up to bed, and just basically collapsed. I'm guessing I would have been asleep in minutes, because I was totally worn out. I came to, coming down the stairs. I looked out the rear patio doors. I saw a policeman standing with his gun drawn. Someone yelled, there's the guy, and he turned, pointed his gun at me, and charged me right through the patio doors and told me to get down.
I can see you full of emotion here. So many of us turned to our mothers in times of great need. When he turned to you, what did he say, and what did you say to him?
Well, when we first saw him, I just was so shocked. He looked awful. He was very unkempt, and he was totally bewildered. Here's this man, 40-some years old, who said, I want my mommy. And I told him, Scott, I'll fix this.
Why sleepwalking? Was there something, did Scott have a history of this sleepwalking?
Well, yes, he sleptwalked as a child, but I never thought it was going to be a violent episode, because one time when he was sleepwalking, we did go to touch him, and he flinched back, and I knew then when he was doing this, and we wanted him to go back to bed, not to touch him. And then another time, he was trying to get out the door, and his sister saw him. So she got between him and the door to turn the deadbolt so he couldn't get out. And he just picked her up and threw her right out of the way.
During my interview, I asked Scott about this sleepwalking theory. This is what Scott had to say.
Do you believe you were sleepwalking?
Yes, I do. At this point, I see no other reasonable alternative.
So what do you think actually happened the night of the murder?
The best guess is that I was up attempting to fix that pool filter again, and that maybe Yarm had woke up, saw me out working on the pool filter, and she probably came up and maybe even touched me on the shoulder or even rattled me hard to say, "What are you doing?" And I would have reacted violently to that.
Tell me a bit more about the relationship between Scott and Yarmila, his wife. Were they having any kind, all the reports say there were no problems. No couple goes through life without problems. So can you be honest with us and tell us, if you will?
There's never been cross words spoken between them. They don't argue. They discuss differences because they have them. Mm-hmm. But I knew of nothing that was a problem.
If you had such a perfect family, I don't think a person...
I didn't say a perfect family.
Well,
he was a perfect boy.
He's a perfect boy, and you knew your son. So I'm saying he obviously repressed his anger and got to explore his anger by killing his wife. So obviously he had some serious issues.
No, he didn't repress any anger. If he didn't like something, he thought about it.
No, I can relate to this because I sleepwalk. And I sleepwalk. My roommate gets me up. I go in the backyard, and this is embarrassing, but I peeing in the bush and stuff, and I'm like, I don't remember it.
You go outside?
Yeah, I go outside, and I'll go out the front door, I'll walk out the front door, he'll come back and get me, I'm in my underwear, I'll go to the refrigerator, open it up, eat something,
Isn't that scary?
I don't remember it or nothing. I have no idea that I'm doing it. And I was tested at UCLA of sleepwalk.
So do you believe Scott's story?
I believe it. I believe it. I really do.
You believe that he could stab his wife 44 times
and not know it,
drown her in the pool, and a whole lot of other things we're going to tell you about later that he did. You won't believe. You disagree? You disagree. I see it in your face that you're jumping to get up here.
I disagree 100%. What I can't wrap my own brain around is the actual physicality of what had to have occurred for this to have played out. To have been stabbed 44 times, dragging down the stairs, into the pool, etc., and have no consciousness or no memory.
Oh, but wait a minute. There's so much more to this story. There are so many twists and turns to the story alone that, in fact, at the end of the show, I'd like to come back to you, and you, who sleepwalks yourself, and see if you might change your opinion after you hear all of this, okay? When we come back, you're going to find out how Scott covered up his grisly crime after he stabbed his wife 44 times. And you're not going to believe what he did with those bloody clothes that night and how he disposed of the hunting knife. Can this really happen in your sleep? I think that's what we're all asking. Next, we're going to talk with one sleep expert who says, absolutely it can.
He loved her to death, didn't he? When he stuck her head down in that water?
Tell you something, Juan. You had your turn. Now it's my turn.
The defense, the sleepwalking defense, whose idea was that? Was that your idea?